You find a new song, you play it once, it's pretty good. You play it again. Suddenly, it is the greatest thing you have ever heard. You listen to it on your commute, you listen to it in the shower, you play it on repeat until out of absolutely nowhere, you are entirely sick of it. You literally play it until it stops feeling good. Why do we do this? Why do we actively destroy the very things that give us joy just by overconsuming them? And more mysteriously, why do we purposely play a devastatingly sad song on repeat when we are already feeling heartbroken? You might think you are just wallowing in your own misery, but neurologically, you are doing something incredibly bizarre. You aren't just seeking pleasure. You are treating that song like a cognitive itch. By the end of this, you are going to understand the strange, hidden machinery of your own brain, and you will discover the surprising, counterintuitive reason why listening to sad music might actually be your mind's ultimate defense mechanism. To understand why we obsess over a single track, we first have to look at something psychologists call the mere exposure effect, or, as I like to call it, the psychological glow of warmth. Imagine a stranger walking into a room. You do not know them, so you are entirely indifferent. But if you see that exact same stranger every single day, you eventually start to like them. Not because they did anything special, but simply because they are familiar. There was a famous social experiment where a college student attended a class entirely enclosed inside a giant black bag. At first, the other students were hostile, it was weird, it was uncomfortable, but as the weeks went on, the hostility turned into curiosity, and eventually, actual friendship. The bag became a beloved part of the class purely through exposure alone. Your brain does the exact same thing with a melody. In fact, your brain is hardwired for this from the very beginning. Scientists once played specific audio tones for baby chicks before they had even hatched. After they were born, the chicks consistently preferred those exact same tones, and this preference is entirely subconscious. In another study, researchers flashed Chinese characters in front of people so fast they could not even consciously register them. Later, when asked to rate a list of characters, people overwhelmingly rated the ones they had subliminally seen as more positive. Psychologists call this the idea that preferences need no inferences. We like familiar things before our logical brain even realizes we know them. But mere exposure only explains why we start to like a song. It does not explain why we hit the replay button like lab rats looking for a quick fix. For that, we have to look at your brain's chemical reward system. When you listen to a song on repeat, you are triggering a massive two-stage dopaminergic loop. The first stage is the anticipatory phase. As the song builds up to your favorite part, a region deep in your brain called the right caudate lights up. This is the wanting phase. Your brain is intensely tracking the rhythm. It is perfectly predicting the exact microsecond that the beat is going to drop or the vocal hook is going to hit. And then comes the second stage, the consumatory phase. The beat drops, the expectation is met perfectly. Your nucleus accumbens immediately floods your brain with dopamine. You literally get high off your own biological ability to predict the future. But here is where the paradox kicks in. Why do we eventually get sick of it? Enter the inverted U theory. Think of this as the sweet spot of information. If a song is too simple, we are bored instantly. If it is too complex, we are overwhelmed. We play a song on repeat to climb to the very top of that inverted U, the perfect middle ground where we fully understand the music, but it still feels fresh. But every time you play it, your brain learns it a little bit more. Eventually, there is no more mystery. The predictability hits 100%, the dopamine completely stops flowing, and the song crashes down the other side of the U. The magic is gone. You have efficiently squeezed every drop of neurochemical juice out of the track. But what happens when the emotion isn't joy? Let's talk about the heartbreak playlist. You just got dumped, you feel awful, so naturally, you put on the most devastating, soul-crushing song you can find, and you play it 50 times in a row. Logically, this makes absolutely zero sense. Why would you purposefully pour salt in your own psychological wound? Most people assume we do this to wallow. We think we are just indulging in our own pain. But the research reveals a massive, deeply human plot twist. A fascinating study analyzed the listening habits of over 500 users on Last FM who were clinically at risk for depression. They found that these individuals actively preferred sad songs with a very high absolute information content, or AIC. In plain English, they were purposefully seeking out incredibly complex, highly layered sadness. Why? Because of a brilliant psychological survival mechanism called avoidant coping. Your brain only has so much processing power. When you are grieving or depressed, your mind is constantly flooded with negative, intrusive thoughts about your real life. By blasting a highly complex, emotionally heavy song on repeat, you are deliberately giving your brain a massive cognitive load. You are literally using the music as a shield. The complex sad song effectively crowds out your own devastating thoughts. The music isn't making you sadder. It is providing a safe, predictable, emotional enclosure. It is an artificial sadness that you can easily control, perfectly masking the real, terrifying sadness that you can't. You are treating the music as empty content to validly block out the pain of reality. It is not wallowing. It is a brilliant form of emotional survival. But sometimes the loop is not voluntary. Sometimes the music completely traps you. We have all had an earworm, a single, repetitive line of a catchy pop song looping in your head for 3 days straight. Psychologists call this involuntary musical imagery, and it acts exactly like a cognitive itch. Your brain has a structural component called the phonological loop. It is essentially an internal tape loop inside your working memory that keeps a sound endlessly spinning long after the speakers go silent. Your brain replays that fragment over and over as a desperate, subconscious attempt to physically scratch the internal itch. But you can hack this. You can actually force your brain to hit the stop button. The first method is called the Zeigarnik resolution. The Zeigarnik effect dictates that human beings will always obsess over incomplete tasks. If a song is stuck in your head, it is almost always because your brain only remembers the hook. It perceives the song as an unfinished chore. The solution? Go listen to the entire song from the very first second to the absolute last fade out. Give your brain the definitive closure it is begging for, and the loop will immediately shatter. But if that doesn't work, there is a physical glitch in your biology you can exploit. Let's call it the gum hack. To stop a song from looping, put a piece of gum in your mouth and aggressively start chewing. The motor circuits your jaw uses to chew actually overlap with the inner voice used by your phonological loop. Psychologists call this articulatory interference. By forcing your mouth to chew, you physically hijack and block your brain's ability to internally sing the song. And you can take this biological control even further through strategic arousal shifting. You can literally use repetitive music to manually hack your own central nervous system. If you are spiraling into anxiety or feeling incredibly overstimulated, find a song with a tempo slightly below 95 beats per minute. Make sure it has incredibly simple, highly predictable harmony. Your nervous system will automatically latch onto that predictable external rhythm. It will synchronize with the slow beat, physically forcing your body out of fight or flight and into a state of deep relaxation. We like to think of ourselves as incredibly rational creatures. We think we are in total control of our choices, our moods, and our Spotify playlists. But the truth is, we are beautifully complex biological machines, constantly trying to navigate a chaotic world. We don't just listen to music, we consume it. We use it to trigger dopamine. We use it to physically shield ourselves from our darkest, most intrusive thoughts. We loop it until it literally becomes a part of our neurological architecture. So, the next time you find yourself playing that exact same track for the 17th time today, do not feel weird about it. Your brain is just doing exactly what it was designed to do, finding order, seeking reward, and building a comfortable, familiar little home inside the noise. I'll see you in the next one.